Welcome in. Ready for a deep dive into a collection of psalms unlike any you've encountered? We're digging into a New Testament psalm by Rhino du Toit.
It's definitely a unique one. Du Toit takes a really unflinching look at modern life, through this spiritual lens. And the way he uses these different voices, really personal and intimate voices.
Yeah, you're right there in their head. And one of the things that really struck me early on was how he tackles trauma, especially child sexual abuse.
Yeah.
It's heavy stuff.
It is, and he doesn't shy away from the psychological impact. Like in Psalm 154, that phrase lies tattooed on the mind. That really got to me. What do you think about that?
So powerful, right? It's like it's seared onto you. You can't just erase it.
Exactly. And it made me think about...
And it connects to something else I noticed. That link he draws between trauma and those self-destructive behaviors, even in that same psalm.
Yeah, like that urge to hurt yourself, to do risky things. It's almost a way to try to regain control.
Right. To rewrite what's been, etched onto you.
Exactly.
And it's not just the victims. Du Toit goes inside the mind of an abuser, too, in Psalm 155.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It's really unsettling, hearing them justify what they've done, downplaying the harm.
It is, and it shows you that distorted thinking, that lack of empathy, and it's something, unfortunately, we see in real-life cases all the time.
All the time. It's a reminder of how deep these patterns run, for both sides. And it's interesting, this exploration of woundedness, it seems to flow right into how Du Toit portrays sexuality in a broader sense.
Yeah. Definitely. This is where a New Testament psalm really pushes the envelope. Lust, infidelity. He even has a psalm from the perspective of a prostitute.
Oh, right.
It's like he's forcing us to confront these experiences head on. You can't look away.
That contrast between the high-end Hollywood prostitute, Psalm 188, and the man justifying his infidelity, it's like two sides of the same coin.
It is. Like, on one hand, sexuality can be this tool for power, control, escape, even.
Right.
But then woven through it all, there's this deep yearning for real connection.
Totally. And so often that yearning, it gets all tangled up with addiction, which is another big thing Du Toit explores. That inner battle, faith and doubt, wanting more, trying to fill that void. How'd you see that playing out?
Well, it's interesting. You get these two impulses side by side. So in Psalm 229, you've got someone finding solace, peace in their faith.
Okay.
But then right next to that, there's someone looking for that fun and peace through partying, external stuff.
It's like a constant push and pull, that desire to numb things, quiet the doubt with something outside ourselves.
Exactly. And Du Toit shows us how tempting that is, how seductive those escapes can be, even as he hints at how empty they ultimately are.
Exactly. Which I think brings us to forgiveness, because that becomes this powerful force.
Yes. It's messy, it's complicated, and Du Toit doesn't try to make it anything else.
No, he doesn't sugarcoat it at all. You see the rawness, that internal struggle, especially with forgiving yourself. What about that theme resonated with you?
One of the most powerful passages, I think, was Psalm 169, where he talks about treating your body like a baby that needs love, needs reassurance, especially after trauma, that self-compassion as the foundation for healing. What do you think about that, having spent so much time with these psalms?
That really resonated because it highlights that deep connection between self-forgiveness and moving forward. Like he's saying, you can't heal until you show yourself the same grace you'd show someone you love.
Exactly. And from that place of self-compassion, we can even begin to deal with forgiving others, which is something he explores beautifully, by the way, in Psalm 321.
Yes. That one where he's wrestling with forgiving his brother, so raw. You really feel that push and pull between wanting to hold on to anger and wanting to find peace.
It's that constant tug of war. And I think that's what makes it resonate. Because it's not easy, and he's not pretending it is. It's a process, a journey. And speaking of journeys, it's fascinating how he moves from those really personal struggles to bigger social commentary. He's not afraid to hold up a mirror to society and say, look at what we've created.
Especially when it comes to poverty and wealth.
Absolutely. Psalm 556, that's a prime example. On one hand, you've got this wealthy person, totally out of touch, right? And then, bam, you're hit with the voice of someone barely surviving, struggling. That juxtaposition...
It's jarring.
It is. It's like they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. You can't ignore either one.
No, because it's the reality of the world, isn't it? That tension is always there.
Exactly. Makes you think about where you fit in, on that spectrum. And it's not just about wealth, right? He tackles racial prejudice, too. Deeply ingrained stuff.
Psalm 610, that one was hard to read. That whole conversation about why God would create black people that way.
Oh, I know. It's tough.
It lays bare those ingrained prejudices. The things people used to and still do use to justify racism.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but important. Because it's real. And Du Toit, he doesn't let anyone off easy. He challenges those old justifications head on.
It's like he's challenging the reader, too.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we see it, but what are we going to do about it?
Right. It's not enough to just acknowledge it. It's
Right.
a call to action, you know? And it made me think about the big picture of what he's doing, because it's not just social commentary, right? It's through this lens of faith. It makes you think about how what you believe actually plays out in the real world.
Yeah, yeah.
And that, I think, leads us to his reflections on the afterlife.
Definitely a shift in tone there towards the end. Like, he wants us to face our own mortality.
Yeah.
And what comes next.
And the imagery he uses. Heaven, hell, judgment. Powerful stuff. What stuck with you about?
Psalm 855, the wealthy man suffering while Lazarus finds peace.
Yeah.
Really got me. It's like our actions have consequences that echo way beyond this life.
It's a powerful reminder that things might not be right in this lifetime, you know? But we're still accountable for how we treat each other while we're here.
Absolutely. And then there's that last one, Psalm 857, where he suggests that maybe it's our own technology that does us in. Kind of a chilling thought.
Chilling, yeah. But it makes you think. Like, we've got all this knowledge, all this power, but what are we doing with it?
Right. Creating or destroying. It's a big question, especially now when everything's moving so fast.
It's like he's saying, okay, what's your legacy going to be? Ingenuity or recklessness? What's it going to be?
Makes you think, for sure.
Oh, it does, right. And that's what I like about this New Testament psalm. It gets under your skin. It's not just poetry. It makes you really think about faith, about morality, about what it all means.
It does. And even though some of it's hard to read, even disturbing, there's something about that rawness that's really rewarding.
It's like he's giving a voice to those parts of ourselves we try to ignore, you know?
Yeah.
The messy parts.
Yeah.
But then by doing that, it creates space for us to actually connect, to understand.
Absolutely. It's like when we're willing to look at those hard truths in ourselves, in the world, that's when we can start to see each other more clearly, with more compassion.
That's it. That's the key. And even though Du Toit doesn't shy away from the darkness, there's also this sense of hope, this belief that we can be better, that we can change.
Yeah, even those last Psalms with the afterlife judgment, it's less about being punished and more about being accountable. Facing the music, maybe learning from it all.
And that's where the real hope is, isn't it? Not easy answers, but those tough questions, really wrestling with these big ideas, letting it change you.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope stays with people?
For me, it's the power of engaging with art that challenges you, that pushes buttons, that starts conversations, and in the end, makes you want to live a better life, a more thoughtful life.
I love that. Du Toit's work reminds us that even when things are dark, even with suffering, uncertainty, there's always room to grow, to become something more, something to hold on to, don't you think?
Absolutely. And I hope this deep dive gave you some new ways of seeing things, some new questions to ask, and just maybe a little more hope for the road ahead.